Chapter 33. Wherefore, Job, I pray thee, hear my speeches, and hearken to all my words. Behold, now I have opened my mouth, my tongue hath spoken in my mouth. My words shall be of the uprightness of my heart, and my lips shall utter knowledge clearly. The Spirit of God hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. If thou canst answer me, set thy words in order before me. Stand up. Behold, I am according to thy wish in God's stead. I am also formed out of the clay. Behold, my terror shall not make thee afraid, neither shall my hand be heavy upon thee. Surely thou hast spoken in mine hearing, and I have heard the voice of thy word, saying, I am clean, without transgression. I am innocent, neither is there iniquity in me. Behold, he findeth occasions against me. He counteth me for his enemy. He putteth my feet in the stocks. He marketh all my paths. Behold, in this thou art not just. I will answer thee that God is greater than man. Why dost thou strive against him? For he giveth not account of any of his matters. For God speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceive it not. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumberings upon the bed, when he openeth the ears of men, and sealeth their instruction, that he may withdraw man for his purpose, and hide pride from man. He keepeth back his soul from the pit, and his life from perishing by the sword. He is chastened also with pain upon his bed, and the multitude of his bones with strong pain, so that his life abhorreth bread, and his soul dainty meat. His flesh is consumed away, that it cannot be seen, and his bones that were not seen stick out. Yea, his soul draweth near unto the grave, and his life to the destroyers. If there be a messenger with him, an interpreter, one among 1,000, to show unto man his uprightness, then he is gracious unto him, and saith, Deliver him from going down to the pit. I have found a ransom. His flesh shall be fresher than a child's. He shall return to the days of his youth. He shall pray unto God, and he will be favorable unto him. And he shall see his face with joy, for he shall render unto man his righteousness. He looketh upon men, and if any say, I have sinned, and perverted that which was right, and it profited me not, he will deliver his soul from going into the pit, and his life shall see the light. Lo, all these things worketh God oftentimes with man, to bring back his soul from the pit, to be enlightened with the light of the living. Mark well, O Job, hearken unto me, hold thy peace, and I will speak. If thou hast anything to say, answer me, speak, for I desire to justify thee. If not, hearken unto me, hold thy peace, and I shall teach thee wisdom. Now here we have Elihu, and he is taking a different approach to this than the older men were. And basically, whereas the older men were absolutely certain that Job was some kind of secret sinner and had not done right, Elihu here is coming at this in a way that basically says, as in verse 5, If thou canst answer me, set thy words in order before me, stand up. In other words, if you listen to what I have to say, and you can think of something that is better than what I've said, then make it known unto me. In verse 36, he says, Behold, I am according to thy wish in God's stead. In essence, what he's saying is, you've wanted to talk to God and make your case before God. And he said, so I am basically here representing God. It's pretty pretty interesting way of phrasing who he is. But he also says, I am formed out of clay, so I'm also man. He said, my terror, my fear, my respect of God shall not make thee afraid. In other words, you don't have to worry about me. Neither shall my hand be heavy on you. I'm not going to do anything to make you afraid. Surely thou hast spoken in mine hearing. I've heard what you had to say. I've heard the voice of thy words, saying, I am clean and without transgression. I'm innocent, neither is there iniquity in me. I've heard what you say that. Behold, in verse 10, God findeth occasions against me. That's who the he is. God counteth me for his enemy. God putteth my feet into the stocks, which were a way of a type of device for holding you if you had been bad. Put your feet in some kind of thing to hold them still so you couldn't go anywhere. He marketh all my paths. Behold, this is Elihu talking to Job. In this thou art not just. In other words, he said, you're protesting, saying that God's finding occasions with you. He's counting you for his enemies, putting your feet in stocks. He's marking all my paths. He said, Job, you're not right in saying these things about God. I will answer thee that God is greater than man. Why dost thou strive against him? Why do you bring up these things and contend with God? For he, God, doesn't give any account of any of his matters. God is not responsible to you for telling you what he's doing. And then he says that God communicates with men, but men don't always listen. He says in verse 18, he keepeth back his soul. So God keeps back your soul from the pit, from dying, and your life from perishing by the sword. Man is chastened, he's in verse 19. Man, he, meaning man, is chastened, also with pain upon his bed, and the multitude of his bones with strong pain. In other words, you get things like arthritis and pain and all kinds of things. So that his life abhorreth bread. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't like bread. This is, again, imagery here. In other words, your soul does not take delight in the simple pleasures anymore. And his soul doesn't take delight in dainty meat. That would be the delicacies of life, the things. Nothing really seems interesting. Verse 21, his flesh is consumed away, so you lose all the muscle mass that it can't be seen, right? Don't have all the big muscles you had when you were younger. The bones that were not seen now stick out. Yea, his soul draweth near to the grave. In other words, you start thinking about dying. And his life to the destroyers. He thinks about how he might die. Verse 23, if there be a messenger with him, an interpreter, one among 1,000. In other words, if he gets somebody who is a friend, who can understand what is happening, who can point out to him something very rare, how God is still with him, to show the man his uprightness. Then he, God, is gracious unto this man, and saith, deliver the man here, from going down to the pit. I have found a ransom. I have found somebody to pay the price that I would have exacted from this man. And then he's basically saying in verse 25, his flesh shall be fresher than a child's. In other words, this man will come back from the sickness. This man will be healed. He shall return to the days of his youth. Not necessarily he's going to be like he's 18, 19, or 20, but he will have the attitudes and the appreciations of youth. He will pray unto God, and God will be favorable unto him, and he shall see God's face with joy. For he will render unto man his righteousness. And so God will recognize man for his righteousness and reward him for it. This is poetry. And again, you need to understand that all of these figures of speech in the original Hebrew would be much more impressive than they are as in this translated English. But if you can take the time and go through this, and understand who he is referring, who the poet here is referring, the man who wrote the story is referring to when he says he, whether it's God or Job or anybody else. It takes a little bit of practice to understand that, but it's usually fairly obvious who he's talking about. And then this starts to make a lot more sense